Alright, it is time for the Dutch Grand Prix observations. Quite the fascinating Grand Prix we were given. The apparatus had to reveal its hand. Well, let me not say the apparatus, but certain players have had to reveal their hands in regards to what it is they can actually do. So, as a result of that, I've titled this video The Shadow War Erupts, Intrigue and Subterfuge, and the Consequences of Actions. And this is gonna be a top 3 teams centric video. We'll touch on some of the stuff towards the end of the video. And it's quite unfortunate because, well, there was quite a lot of good action down the field and some good talking points, but, well, some far bigger talking points emerged. Yeah, and quite frankly, a lot of that shit is just irrelevant for this Grand Prix. So no, there's no Battle of the Fates update. That was over already. But I'm not going to be talking about Danny Rick or the Piastri situation. You can get the Piastri news elsewhere. Right, Alpine, Otmar stitched them up. So this is now another misadvert for for Alpine. But otherwise, yeah, we were handed a very interesting Grand Prix, and it was mired by, well, some will say circumstance, others will say intent. So let's just unpack this. It's an interesting Grand Prix because, well, yeah, Red Bull had the fastest car again, but, well, it wasn't very obvious who was going to win the Grand Prix until the VSC fell, of course. Then it was a signed and concluded deal from that point on. A super fascinating Grand Prix. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone was on the edge of their seats, which is why the way things unfolded need to be discussed. But first, well, good tidings for Mercedes. There might be 1 or 2 other opportunities for them to fish out a win somewhere this season. But it's not going to be Monza. Monza is expected to be Red Bull dominated, right? It should be a clean domination. Even Perez should look good. But Singapore is looking up for grabs, or it depends what Mercedes have done in terms of dealing with their bouncing issue, and it likewise depends if Ferrari show up on the day. Were Ferrari able to show up here at Zandvoort? Well, yes, if they had more adventurous or perhaps just confident strategists, they perhaps would have shown up. But they don't, and, well, their pit stops were going screwy anyway, just demonstrated by science. Wildly enough, he's not even a talking point after this Grand Prix. The way things happen. But anyway, it's learning season anyway. But otherwise, Monza is expected to be Red Bull dominated because of the way things have played out at Zandvoort and other high downforce circuits, the likes of Hungarian, Monaco, and, well, now soon to be Singapore, depending on whether Mercedes have solved some key issues or not. But otherwise, that's the last chance for Mercedes to fish a win, as far as I can see. Ferrari can fish a win at Singapore, likewise at Kota and Brazil. Mercedes might be able to fish a win out at Brazil. Excuse me, not Brazil, at Kota. But otherwise, looking like it's all forecast for Red Bull. And Suzuka is pending. I really don't know what the cars are going to do there. Well, the individual packages, right? So Suzuka, we'll just have to see what happens when the cars go there. But I am expecting the Red Bull to be very good there. An interesting Grand Prix. There were going to be a lengthy ass list of talking points, but, well, everything went upside down when AlphaTauri decided they were going to, let me not even say AlphaTauri, when Red Bull decided they were going to force a VSC or safety car situation, one or the other. Ideally a safety car situation, but Fiat ended up doing that anyway. I'm not putting this on Red Bull Racing, right? I'm putting this on Red Bull. This goes one layer up, or perhaps 2 layers up, who knows. But this goes a layer up. So what's happened in this Grand Prix is the Red Bull hierarchy, the upper hierarchy, have made a decision that Maximilian Verstappen, he has to win the Dutch Grand Prix because they perhaps can't risk the Orange Army getting out of pocket. Alright? They perhaps can't risk them getting out of pocket doing a madness post-Zandvoort because the wrong man has won. And so Red Bull have completely curtailed a potential optics disaster by, well, manipulating a Grand Prix. It's clear as day. I mean, Yuki, I'm not blaming Yuki, okay? Yuki, he's just the driver. I don't know what they might have told him in the back. But now we're going to see just how loyal Red Bull are, because Flavio, perhaps it was taken out of his hands. Perhaps the decision was taken out of his hands. But Flavio, he made the foolish decision of dropping Nelson Piquet Jr. after having instructed the driver to to crash the car purposely. So we're gonna see just how loyal Red Bull are to Yuki Tsunoda after the stunt, because I'm pretty sure if they drop him and he goes Super Formula, he's gonna get a little too comfortable in an interview somewhere and let something slip. Right? I can see that happening if they let him go. So it'll be very interesting to see how Yuki's career develops from here. But yes, Red Bull have manipulated the Grand Prix with their unique flicks, and well, people are going to attack the incorrect avenue, the wrong target. They're gonna talk about our cars shouldn't be allowed to pit during safety cars or whatever. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, mind you. If you get rid of the cars being able to pit during safety car periods before, if you like close the pit lane or something, unless there's an accident in the pit lane, that's the only actual justification for closing the pit lane. But if you close the pit lane for some arbitrary rule regarding caution periods, then that's not really pure racing, right? This is why the Indy cars do it, and it just is what it is. It's really that simple. So that's the wrong rule. That's the wrong avenue, target, whatever you want to call it. That's the wrong thing to attack, right? The actual thing to attack is that no one should be owning 2 teams on the grid after the optics of the Dutch Grand Prix. That's the actual thing to attack. And of course, you got to take the good medicine with the bad, because what's going to happen if people actually choose to go after this angle, because Toto Wolff has opened up the Pandora's box, as it were. He's opened that up. So what's happened going forward if Red Bull were to actually be barred from owning 2 teams? I suppose Andretti could buy the spot, and something interesting would happen in that regard. But otherwise, the main point of interest that I would like to address is that you won't get a Carlos Sainz coming through into the F1 grid. You won't get a Daniel Ricciardo coming through into the F1 grid. You won't get, well, you will get Seb, you will get a Verstappen, because they're just that good. But you won't get a lot of these fan favorites that come through. Pierre Gasly, you wouldn't get a Pierre Gasly on the grid. You wouldn't get these fan favorites that come through the Red Bull apparatus, the Red Bull alumni, as it were. You wouldn't get them. And who knows, some people are going to be too indebted to that whole idea of giving drivers young drivers an actual team that they can go to and perform at. Some people will say, oh well, it's a necessary evil, right? Okay, they might manipulate a Grand Prix here and there, but that's a necessary evil. We need these young drivers to come through into F1. And this is where the unique flex becomes problematic, because it's one thing to take the drivers off the grid, have them start from the pit lane, because that affects everyone, right? Everyone has these drivers moved out of their way. There's fewer drivers on the start, so there's fewer instances for everyone to crash. Alright, so everyone is quite satisfied with that. It's not really a problem for anybody. But oh well. Red Bull went one step further and they've decided to manipulate a Grand Prix. Now, Fiat have done this as well. This is why I've titled this the Shadow War Erupts, but we'll get to that. Right now, I just want to get people on target, as it were. Gotta get people on target. It's not about whether cars can pit during a safety car or VSC or whatever. It's not about that. It's about the fact that there's an entity out there that owns 2 F1 teams on the grid. That shouldn't be flying. It flies because, oh, look at the talent that comes through. And then you get the likes of Ferrari who signed said talent. But anyway. Now, if you are a Maximilian Verstappen fan, then quite frankly, you should be a little incensed as to what happened. But I suppose not everyone is going to have the eyes to see, right? I suppose that will be a feature. No one's really bothered that Verstappen won. I suppose someone will be bothered that Verstappen won. But no one's really bothered that Verstappen won. It's more the manner of the victory. And this one will come out in the wash, right? It's not going to come out immediately that the Grand Prix was fixed or rigged or what have you. Just like Abu Dhabi, just like Singapore, Alonso's win in 08 when that happened. Just like that. It's not going to come out immediately. That'll come out in the wash a few years later, maybe a decade later. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see just how loyal Red Bull are. Yuki. But if you're a Maximilian Verstappen fan, you really don't need this on your boy's resume. You really don't need this on your boy's resume. And this is gonna, this one's gonna come back to be collected later on. There's consequences to these actions. The driver just has to suffer them. It is what it is. But there's consequences to these actions, right? Alonso could not have known anything about what was going to go down in Singapore for real, right? I struggle to believe that's the case. I really do. But he might not have known what was going to go down for real. And, well, it might have all just been a surprise to him, the way it all unfolded. Then look at that. There was no happiness for him after that. He had to drive a dog of a Ferrari car, as people describe it. Well, he kind of made it that way, I suppose, but that's been covered in other videos. But yeah, he had to drive a dog of a Ferrari car, and well, he's been given some other really poor cars to drive. I mean, we can talk about the W13 all we want, and you know what consequences there are for Sir Lewis Hamilton and his actions and desires, as it were. But you know, this is this isn't the worst car Sir Lewis Hamilton has gotten. He already got his punishment for dust spygate with whatever fuckery McLaren cooked up when they were testing the curves for Mercedes. You know, he already got his just desserts for that situation. But this, you don't need this on your boy's resume if you're Maximilian Verstappen. You really don't, because this is gonna, whether Red Bull get have the scales balanced against them next season or the season after, doesn't really matter. It's gonna happen at some point, and it will probably follow Maximilian Verstappen if he is not self-aware enough about it. And it's wild because this thing, like, honestly, this thing didn't even need to be done. Right? Okay, so what? He didn't win the Dutch Grand Prix if it so happened that way, right? I don't really believe that was going to happen. I believe he was going to catch both the Mercs and pass him. But let's say it so happened that way that, okay, Maximilian Verstappen does not win the Dutch Grand Prix. So what? So what? There's lots of drivers who've not won their home. Look at Leclerc. There's lots of drivers who've not won their home Grand Prix. It's not something that's required, and quite frankly, no one should be starting a riot if it doesn't happen. This whole Dutch thing is dangerous as well. You see, the flares are not even a talking point in post of this Grand Prix, right? And either someone has a really good throwing arm, or one of the flares came from the quote-unquote bougie area, right? So it's across the board that everyone. It's not just the hooligans that are getting the. It's even men who are making racks and who are quote-unquote professional in the world. They're also getting flares. Alright, so the flares thing, that's not even a talking point in post of what Red Bull have done this Grand Prix. Right, and the flares situation was a mazza. Right, it was a complete madness this weekend. It was complete madness. Right, the flares should outright be bad. You see, we were tolerating the flares. Right, we were just tolerating the flares. They really shouldn't be there. But we were tolerating them. Okay, they want to bring flares, it's cool. As long as they put them up at the right place and don't throw them onto the circuit. Now Mandem are throwing them onto the circuit. The Orange Army can't be controlled. Right, the Italians have had red flares at Monza before. They've had that shit at Monza before. They go crazy with the mega flags and shit. That's supposed to go fucking crazy, right? But otherwise, they've had flares before, and no, I haven't seen. Right, perhaps there'll be some footage in the archives, but I haven't seen the flares being thrown onto the circuit. But oh no, here's the Orange Army, and they're just gonna get all these liberties no one else has. That's quite interesting to me. And I understand the flares were quote unquote banned for the weekend. No one was supposed to have flares there, but as always, people will bring these things in. Right, you got the technology for it. You lifetime ban these men from here on. Alright, you had them guys who fucked it up. It would be one thing if it was just like one hooligan somewhere who fucked it up, but from my eyes, even someone from the bougie area has thrown a flare on, so that's okay. Alright lads, if you bring flares in, if you ignite a flare, alright, that's it. You're banned from coming to F1 events, and that's going to be the way it goes from here on. That's what ideally would happen for me, but otherwise, what was really going to happen? Were these Dutch fans really going to start a riot? If Maximilian Verstappen didn't win the Grand Prix, were they really going to start a riot, really? Were they going to do a madness in the fan camps again? Classic. or at the next weekend at the Italian fan camp. Ooh, it might still get spicy regardless of whatever happened. Yeah, it's Football 1 right now, I suppose, right? It's no longer Formula 1, it's Football 1. And these are the consequences of these men's actions. A lot of men are seeing consequences for their actions this season, and Maximilian, his consequences are going to come. They are 100% going to come. Not this season. Maybe not even next season. maybe not even to the season after that, who knows? And who knows what type of madness will have happened by then. After this Grand Prix, who knows what type of madness will be happening by then. Verstappen, he might not be able to cash some of these checks just as time goes on. But anyway, right, Red Bull have demonstrated that they are still playing dirty. And, well, they got a response in the same Grand Prix. Quite interesting. Quite interesting. Likewise, Alfa Romeo should not be, well, Fiat should not be involved with two brands on the grid. But anyway, I'm going to get to that. So Red Bull, I'm expecting consequences somewhere down the line for Red Bull here. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be allowed to own AlphaTauri going forward at some point. Not immediately, maybe not even next season, season after, but somewhere along the line, they're gonna have to sell the AlphaTauri team, and yeah, maybe Yuki will talk at some point. Maybe Yuki will talk at some. It's audacious to me that they actually took 2 stabs at triggering the VSC. That wildly audacious. How can you even? Like, how can you even? Red Bull, are you serious? Y'all were doing such a good impression of a serious racing team, and now, oh well, you're a bent racing team. Is it now? Well, the bent organization. Or perhaps they're just genuinely avoiding an optics disaster with the Orange Army. Who knows? Who knows? Someone in that Red Bull hierarchy will know. But really, how audacious. Okay, that's not, that just didn't get the full radio. The team were, poor AlphaTauri pit wall, they were holding their heads like, oh god, look at it, he parked in such an easy to clear place. Why has he done this? Why has the boy done this to us? Oh days. And they brought him into the pits to have another go at triggering the VS. Can you believe? There's no other way to phrase what happened. They even redid his seatbelts. Like, go on, have another go at it. Come on. Come on. Come on, lads. It's enough. Like, Verstappen, he's got the fastest car. It's fine. He's not going to win every Grand Prix with the fastest car. Well, he didn't have the fastest car for the whole season. But even when men have fastest car, Ferrari have demonstrated you're not going to win every Grand Prix, so you just let it be. Just let it be, lads. Fucking audacious. The temerity of Red Bull and AlphaTauri to send the man out to have another go at triggering the right VSC or safety car. Oh my goodness. That's just a madness. That's just a complete madness. I can't even compose myself, man. 2 strikes at it. Oh, y'all lucky he got it the second time, because third time, they were going to stop the race and call an inquisition if you needed 3 strikes for that. Let me tell you what. Anyway, all this shit's going to catch up with these men eventually. No sweat. It's just so fascinating to me. Oh my goodness. To take 2 stabs at it? No, lads. Come on. If you don't get it the first time, let it be. Oh, these guys. And so many people are not going to have the eyes to see anyway. Anyway, this video is probably going to be for the men with the eyes to see. Or your eyes will see afterwards. But otherwise, there's a reason that this video is titled The Shadow War Erupts. Alright, there's a reason that's in the title. Let me get to that. That's coming up next. You know, I like this GP Observations format because I can just take it wherever the fuck I want. There is no format, really. But anyway, I didn't catch the performance chart. Well, I did see it, but I didn't catch a screenshot of it anyway. The performance chart has Red Bull fastest of all the cars coming out of Belgium, of course, because it's Grand Prix dated. So I expect that to remain the same. It might slim down a bit post Zandvoort, but I suppose after Monza, the AWS graph might look very different to what it looked like pre-Monza, or to what it looked like at the start of the season. Well, not the start of the season, but heading into Hungary and Great Britain and Baku. Those were notable Grand Prix to head into. But otherwise, there's a reason this video is titled The Shadow of Erupts, and that is because Fiat fired a salvo off their own upon seeing Red Bull having the audacity to to try and force a, well, they actually did force a VSC, but to force a virtual safety car, or a safety car ideally. That was probably their best case scenario, but they didn't get it. But while Fiat, they've got perhaps a lot more knowledge, know-how, experience as to how to force virtual safety cars, or quote-unquote safety cars, full safety cars. Or perhaps the right phrasing is how to force circuit obstructions. Because, well, what that looked like to me the whole Grand Prix when the safety car got thrown was that Fiat, upon seeing Red Bull having the audacity to take two swings at trying to force a phase change in the Grand Prix, was trying to force a pit stop phase in the Grand Prix. Well, Fiat decided to show Red Bull how their shit is done, and they turned off Bottas' engine. I'm not gonna say, well, I say that allegedly. They turned it off. All of this is alleged. I should be saying that. All of this is alleged, by the way. But they turned off Bottas' engine, and his car expired. Well, he didn't pull it into the pit lane. I'm not sure if he was far enough along the start-finish straight to pull into the pit lane when his engine started going, but he didn't pull into the pit lane. Fiat, of course, the gods of timing. Bottas wouldn't have to know a thing. Mind you, even Alfa Romeo wouldn't have to know a thing. Ferrari wouldn't have to know a thing. This could just be someone from up high just pulling a switch. You know, showing Red Bull the ropes. This is how you do it, lads. They force the safety cars right away. This is how you do it. And well, weren't Ferrari absolutely chuffed at that safety car because they got a podium out of it. So this is the Shadow War. Right? This is why this video is titled The Shadow War Erupts. There's Ferrari have this capability. Well, let me not say Ferrari. This is all alleged, but Fiat have this capability. Fiat own Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, among other highly valued brands. And Red Bull, they own two teams. And it will be interesting to see what the German front does with, well, Porsche and Audi joining the fray for VW. Will be very interesting to see what exactly they do for their shadow games. But yeah, this Grand Prix, the apparatus has had to show quite a lot of his hand, so it's been quite fascinating for me. Right, Fiat, they have capability to switch off an engine, force the safety car. Red Bull, their whole apparatus has the temerity to two-shot these things. Can you believe that? They tried to. I can't believe, man. I'm just in complete, like, the audacity. These men, you know what's wild? I'm about to say these men think we don't have eyes, but they know a lot of men don't have eyes. So, well, let me not say they've got eyes, but they don't have eyes to see. So this is how it goes. They have eyes to look, but not to see. So man, I get to see this shit. But yeah, I have to actually revisit the Hungarian Grand Prix and Fiat's attempt to force a safety car there and rescue Ferrari's Grand Prix. And well, perhaps they learned some lessons there in regards to in regards to what they did here at Zandvoort. But yeah, there's not really much to talk about around Ferrari. I could talk about their pit stops and what have you. Well, I do consider signs to have been done a bit dirty for the quote-unquote unsafe release. Brundle was saying, I believe the previous Grand Prix, that the slanted pit boxes were genius. Well, they're not so genius at Zandvoort, or in a tight pit lane. But well, I suppose they could renovate the Zandvoort pit lane for next season, and there would be space for these slanted pit boxes. But as is, there's not really space for. There's no consistent space for them at each circuit, mind you. Zandvoort does actually have the smallest pit lane on the calendar, smaller than Monaco. And well, that played out for Ferrari. Oh, there were other teams that got through. Yeah, there were other teams that got through just fine. Doesn't mean the slanted pit boxes are a good idea everywhere. That's just the way it is. Otherwise, there are other problems for Ferrari. Missing tires, a missing tire for Sainz. It's just, there's nothing to really chat, and they're just unadventurous with their tire strategy. There's nothing to really talk about with Ferrari aside from Fiat themselves having capabilities to engage in shadow warfare. That's really all there is to discuss here. The Leclerc's Grand Prix could have been better. Sainz Grand Prix obviously could have been better. But they've not changed color just yet. They should be painting these Ferraris yellows, the yellow Ferraris right now. Maybe next season they'll earn the red. Anyway. Alright, so Lewis Hamilton was left fuming with the Mercedes pit wall. I mean, look, there's consequences for all types of actions, right? If you want an equal opportunity team, then this is the type of thing that happens in an equal opportunity team. This is just the way it goes. This is what's expected, right? If you have a driver who's taking advantage of the team being an equal opportunity team, because Lewis Hamilton, he doesn't do the whole number one driver thing, because he doesn't want to be made the de facto number two driver for a team, so he doesn't do a number one, number two driver. He is just way equal opportunity. This is what happens in equal opportunity teams. People can be upset that Mercedes haven't given Sir Lewis Hamilton a genuine shot at trying to win the Grand Prix or what have you, but I kind of signed up for this. Right, Mercedes, they should have had the ambition themselves and denied George the pit stop, but then George would have every right to be upset himself and say, well, you stopped me from trying to make gains on this Grand Prix, and you might have been overtaken by the Ferraris just as well. So yeah, was the win on for Mercedes? Possibly, barring the virtual safety car and safety car. The win was possibly on, but as soon as the VSC happened, well, the Grand Prix was over. The Grand Prix, it was functionally over. It was done. It was a wrap. Right, the safety car was just like the icing on top for Red Bull and Maximilian. Ferrari got to rescue a result off the back of it. So yeah, were Mercedes gonna win? No. One could say, what was gonna happen if they pit Sir Lewis Hamilton for the soft tires? Well, it's gonna be overtaken by the Red Bull. That's just how it was gonna. That was all that was gonna happen, because the field had been bunched up by then. Whatever time was gonna be gained by doing the one stop, which was gonna work, it didn't matter at that point. So at that point, it was really just a case of, okay, we can either fight fruitlessly for a win, which isn't going to come, and then you maybe fall prey to the Ferraris and maybe even Perez, who will get to. Jesus, who gets Perez. Or you try and split strategy. One of the drivers might be up for splitting strategy because they're going to lose track position for it. And you see where things fall off the back of that, and that's all that happened. I mean, George, he made the call himself. A Mercedes pit wall is not all that imaginative with their strategy. They don't exactly change plans in a hurry. They don't change plans in a hurry. They don't change direction in a hurry. And so George being there, and he says, "Hey, yo, I need soft tires right now," or we might not even get the podium that you guys were thinking of. I need a change of tires ASAP. And so Lewis, he might not see that. The Mercedes pit wall themselves, they probably don't see that. And so he gets the change of tires, and after that, then Mercedes have to have a chat with Sir Lewis about pitting once the whole snake has formed up behind the safety car. Say, okay, you got to pit now for tires, and then he's back in 12th place or worse, and just okay, race from there. But once again, this is another one where if Sir Lewis wanted to be on the soft tires and he wanted to get the soft tires in good time, he needed to make the call himself, because Mercedes, they didn't make the call. George made the call. Right, but otherwise, doesn't even. This is a superfluous detail to me, because the situation shouldn't have even arisen anyway. Right, so whatever. This is just the way it was. But it is what it is. Right. Otherwise, Lewis, he was probably on to win the Grand Prix. Without the virtual safety car and then safety car, he was probably on to win the Grand Prix. But oh well, not enough organic incidents were happening in order to offset that one-stop decision by Mercedes. So the powers that be made some shit happen. And Mercedes, who knows, they might buy Latifi. Use him as an ad. Hey, wait, let me not give these guys ideas. Oh man, let me not give these men ideas. But yeah, so Lewis, he was fuming with the Mercedes pit wall. You know, he had all the admiration for the mechanics as they were doing mega pit stops, or they felt like mega pit stops to Sir Lewis Hamilton relative to what Mercedes have dished up for the rest of the season. He had a glowing review of the mechanics and a scathing review of the pit wall. He was perhaps told to apologize. It doesn't really matter. This is why I don't hold drivers accountable for whatever's said in the cockpit. I mean, you're in an isolated environment. You only have curated information fed to you, right? So so you never know what's really going on in the Grand Prix, and you're at the mercy of whatever the pit wall lets you know, or what you see, what you can piece together from what you see on the jumbotrons around the circuit. And that's really it. You're really isolated in the cars. Not like you've got music, you know, to fill the space. It's just you, the sound of the machinery. And the pit wall, when they do chat it to you and give you some bits of knowledge as to what's going on in the race. So, you know, when the driver's seeing himself slip back and everyone's on different tires and all of this shit, you know, you might get a little heated in the cockpit. Things get heated in the cockpit. I don't hold the drivers to account, any of the drivers, for whatever they say in the cockpit. You could say anything. Maybe not N-word. I don't know if the white man can say N-word in an F1 cockpit. It might be tested at some point. But yeah, people got in a huff about Alonso saying a thing on the radio. The radio chat, it doesn't matter. From the cockpit? No, that doesn't matter to me. That absolutely cannot matter to me. Like, who has analog for what that environment was? Nobody. I mean, the drivers, all the drivers who are on commentary, the former drivers, Button and Chandhook on the Sky Sports Com, well, they were in complete agreement with Sir Lewis Hamilton having a storm of words come out of his mouth over team radio. They were in complete agreement. They could completely understand why he was so angry with with the way the team had managed the situation. So to the drivers, they don't hold each other to real account for whatever's said in the cockpit, because the heap of madness can be said in the cockpit. It's cockpit talk. But anyway, Georgie got the podium. I suppose good rescue job considering the circumstances. But none of this shit matters in post of the shadow war that took place at the Dutch Grand Prix. None of this shit really matters anymore. Alright. So Perez, he either demonstrates that he's wildly overrated, or the Red Bull car is wildly overrated, or he's running test sessions for next season's car. It could be any of those. It could be any of those. But he's so underwhelming in the same Red Bull car. I'm not buying the story that Verstappen develops a car that's too pointy at the front for his teammates to deal with. I'm not really buying that. Perez is just being smoked by the class of drivers that are around him. It's a different game around them, man. You got Sir Lewis Hamilton there, Maximilian, gorgeous Russell, Charlie Leclerc, Carlos Sainz Jr. He's generational, So he's got all these types of, it's a hereditary thing for Sainz. So there's all these types of talents around him, and he's just Perez. It's just Checo Perez. And he's getting smoked by these. He's either getting smoked, or because we know demonstrably, especially after Spa, right? I don't know, there's going to be Red Bull fans chime in and say, oh, look, the Red Bull ain't that fast. Look at how Perez is doing it at a Zandvoort. Zandvoort is a bit of a driver's circuit, for one. Two, after Spa, for the second half of the season, no, it's after the technical directives come into play, no less. I mean, Red Bull are far and away the fastest car. Right, Zandvoort, I said was going to close things up. Things are going to look tight, close, edgy. It's going to get people on the edge of their seats. We were about to have a super fascinating result, conclusion to the Grand Prix, regardless of whatever happened, whether Maximilian caught up to the Mercedes and overtook the pair of them, or whether he wasn't able to. It was going to be fascinating either way. We didn't get that. Perez, this guy, this is why I just don't buy the hype around Perez. Like, where does that hype fit in? Right? Unless the Red Bull car is far and away faster than the Ferrari pair and the Mercedes pair, Perez was left floundering. Now he was, making a highlight reel versus Sir Lewis Hamilton. He put up his animal defense, whatever animal you want that to be. I don't know, some people would say dogged defense or what have you, but that's really all Perez can do. He can do the defensive driving because he's always been moving backwards in his career and been getting ahead on strategy and tire management. But that stuff stops mattering at the front. You gotta be when next season, or the season after, when Ferrari and Mercedes have achieved some sort of parity with the Red Bull in these regulations, Helmut Marko, he knows himself. He's gonna want to have been rid of Perez by then. He's not good enough for when the formula becomes that. he's outright not good enough for it. He's surviving now because the car is spicy, but where the car is not all that spicy is Zandvoort. This is what happens. He gets shaded. And now people are going to use this and say, oh look, Maximilian is winning in a weaker car, what have you. That's driver gap. That's, Perez versus Verstappen at Zandvoort. That's the best example of driver gap I can show you. Now, of course, Verstappen, he's getting his home Grand Prix boost and all of that. Right. I'm not gonna say he's not getting that. Mind you, he could have 2 home Grand Prix. I don't know. You might consider the Belgian Grand Prix the quote unquote home Grand Prix as well. But otherwise, he's getting definitive home Grand Prix boost at Zandvoort, at the Dutch Grand Prix. Aside from the fact that Perez can't match him regularly, he's just been completely shaded by him at Zandvoort. Completely shaded. The margins are small because it's a small circuit, but he's been completely like I don't know how you go home if you're Checo Perez after this, and Mexico's coming up soonish and he's gonna want to win that Grand Prix. How are you gonna match this guy? How are you gonna beat him? Forget match him. I could even run that the other way. Forget beating him. How are you gonna match him? But really, you're gonna have to beat him at Mexico if you want a home Grand Prix win. I did suggest early in the season that Red Bull would perhaps try and fix a win for him at the Mexican Grand Prix. I don't think they can at this point. Maximilian is too good relative to Checo Perez, and he got to win at Monaco, so I don't really think Red Bull give a damn. As far as they might consider the scales balanced for Checo, and they're not gonna bother with trying to fish a win for him at the Mexican Grand Prix. But yeah, Perez has got all the energy to make these highlight reels on Sir Lewis Hamilton of him defending, because, well, that's the main thing he's learned over his F1 career, how to do defensive driving. And well, when you're up against Sir Lewis Hamilton, everyone gets a bit of extra spice in the tank. Because, oh look, it's the great Sir Lewis Hamilton. So everyone's got to get on the highlight reel. Even Sebastian Vettel. But yeah, whatever Perez did at Zandvoort, that was not enough to fix a win. People are getting shades of Abu Dhabi 2021. Fitting. Quite fitting, but the stakes just are not the same. You downplay 2021 by even comparing. I get the events and the way they pan out, but you really downplay by even comparing that shit. So yeah, Perez, he's out at sea. I don't see any way Helmut Marko keeps him around. If Yuki Tsunoda proves to be good enough, he's gonna replace Perez immediately. And Helmut Marko is undoubtedly expecting Liam Lawson to be good enough, and Liam Lawson will very quickly replace Checo Perez. Right, especially as this formula develops, because, well, that second Red Bull seat, they're gonna need another young potential in there, real young potential in there, someone who could really potentially get a championship, because nothing else is gonna really cut it going forward. Right, and with Audi and Porsche joining eventually, who knows what might happen. Let me not say I don't think Porsche have actually found the team to commit with just yet, but Audi, they have. I'm gonna run it like they're joining for real. And with Audi certainly joining, those are two very dangerous seats to be racing against if you are any team. So Perez, he's not gonna survive at the top. Right, he can't survive in a top team, especially once the ecosystem gets to that point, and he's out. He'll have gotten his money by then. He'll probably be done with F1. He'll probably get jaded to shit with his years at Red Bull, and he'll just be done with F1 by then. Anyway, all right. Speaking of making highlight reels against Sir Lewis Hamilton, Vettel, he also had to get a slice of the pie. I'm considering this his advert to Red Bull, that he's still loyal to the hierarchy, and he wants a space in there when he's done when he's done racing. He's hey look, I can still do a job for y'all. All right, fix a space for me there, and I'll be a good soldier. All right, I'll be a good ambassador even. Right. That's where Vettel seems to be looking at for me. All right, he might want a Mark Webber, David Coulthard deal, but even better, something like that, because his timing of this mess he committed to film with Sir Lewis Hamilton in the mirrors, he probably would have gotten enough information from all the big screens all over the place that Sir Lewis Hamilton was racing the Red Bull. It probably doesn't matter for him who's in the Red Bull, but he's racing a Red Bull. Let me show Marco and friends that I'm still loyal to the cause. Let me show him. So that's what he did. That's what he's done here for me. He's definitely looking for a spot somewhere at Red Bull when he's done racing. If he does go IndyCar or WEC or something for a few seasons and eventually end up somewhere in the Red Bull hierarchy as an ambassador, don't be surprised. This is his advert. Right? This is his advert for that. And he's definitely gonna get the spot. He's Red Bull alumni anyway. He's loved there. I love him. Except Marco. Marco's done with him. Marco, he treats these men like fruit, fam. As soon as they're spoiled, he's done. He's done. As soon as all the juice is out, you're done to me. But everyone else at Red Bull, they seemingly do have quite a lot of love for Vettel, and Vettel undoubtedly still has quite a lot of love for Red Bull. But yeah, that was a wild bit of film. Really a wild bit of film. I don't know why Seb. I've just said why, but I don't know why Seb committed himself to doing that. It's like, really, he didn't need to, but oh well, he did it. It's Gucci, Seb. I see where you're aiming, and well, best of luck to you. All right, I've got to talk about Alpines and Aston Martin's rear wings. All right, all their different concepts. So, okay, are the armchair rear wings required for high downforce circuits next season? They probably are. They probably are a requirement. I suppose everyone will have their own armchair rear wing equivalent next season, and well, assuming it doesn't get banned by the FIA. But I assume if it doesn't get banned by the FIA, everyone's going to have their armchair rear wing for Monaco, the Hungarian, Zandvoort, Singapore, all of these circuits. I imagine all the teams will have something similar. Likewise, Alpine's rear wing, I still consider this a requirement for teams next season. I suppose these wings are going to get their final tests very shortly, and we'll have a true read on the efficacy of these rear wing concepts. But in my mind, I'm pretty sure Alpine's rear wing, everyone's going to have something equivalent to that for next season, because Alpine have made a ridiculous amount of gains since putting this thing on. Right, they've built the whole car around this thing, right, as the season has gone forward, and well, it's starting to reap dividends. Unfortunately, they're still having issues in qualifying, but well, they come right back through the Grand Prix. But otherwise, the final testing grounds for these two wing concepts are coming. Final testing ground for Aston Martin's rear wing concept is Singapore, and the final testing ground for Alpine's rear wing concept is Monza. If Alpine, by the team's calculations and observation tools, they don't look noticeably different at Monza in a low downforce spec, they're not going to bother with this rear wing concept of Alpines. And likewise, if Aston Martin look unremarkable at Singapore, then I don't see teams bothering with their armchair rear wing concept. Alright, but of course, Aston Martin and Alpine could refine these things going into next season, and then they could be real kickers that teams just have to have. Right, however that falls, we'll see. I'm expecting these things to be required for next season, unless they get outlawed. I could see the Tracing Martin rear wing getting outlawed, the armchair rear wing. I can't see the Alpine rear wing being outlawed. But anyway, we'll have to see what happens in regards to that. Alright, and this is my final points on this. I don't know how long the video is going to be here. Hopefully not too long. But there's more sparks. I'm going to look out for car behavior at Singapore, but a few more cars are sparking similar to how the Red Bull was sparking at the start of the season. Why am I noting that some cars are sparking a bit more over here? Well, because the technical directives have come in, and I suppose teams have opted into similar placement of their quote-unquote ice skates that Red Bull opted into at the start of the season. Right now, which cars did I see this on? The Alpine, the McLaren, I believe, might be wrong on that, and the AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri are getting hand-me-down knowledge. Alpine, I suppose they've just opted into a solution that works. And McLaren, they've gone and made a whole new car. I believe I saw Williams doing it at some point in the weekend, but the Williams doesn't catch a lot of screen time, so it's not something that it's not something one could get a look at with regularity. But yeah, there's more sparks in my mind. More teams are placing the skids where Red Bull placed their skids, but I don't believe the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari have done so yet, or at least have placed their skids where Red Bull ice skates have placed them where Red Bull have placed them. So yeah, I'll be looking out for this. I'll be looking out for this. I'll be looking out especially at Singapore. I suppose something interesting might happen at Monza with coming out of slipstreams, but I'm not expecting it. Downforce settings are just too low in general. Circuit of the Americas might be interesting. Brazil might be interesting. And that's really all. I can't see Mexico being a place for this. Singapore, I wouldn't really say it will be because of the cars trying not to porpoise. It would be more because of cars trying not to bounce on the street circuit. But anyway, I found it interesting that a few cars were making a bit more sparks. Well, some of them weren't making any sparks at all. They're making a few more sparks, or a lot more sparks than they were before. But otherwise, that could just be Zandvoort specific. I don't think so. Likewise, some cars sparking on exit curbs. Anyway, that was just good fun. I don't really think there's anything to take home from that. That's just some good slow-mos for for the video makers later in time. Anyway, that should be the vid. Peace.
Hell breezy. Let me show you how to keep the dice rolling when you're doing that thing over there. Hey. Let's go! Cause I'm feeling like I'm running and I'm feeling like I gotta get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop. Cause you know I gotta win every day. Go! See, you really wanna pop me. Go! Just know that you will never flop me. And I know that I gotta be a little cocky. Go! You ain't never gonna stop me. Every time I come a nigga gotta set it, then I gotta go and then I gotta get it, then I gotta blow and then I gotta shut it. Any little thing a nigga think that he be doing, cause it doesn't matter, cause I'm gonna dead it. Then I'm gonna murder everything and anything about it. Boom, about a bing. I gotta do a lot of things to make it clearer to a couple niggas that I always win and then I gotta get it again and again and again. And I be doing it to death and now I move a little foul. Nigga better call a rap and everybody know my style. Niggas know that I'm the best when it comes to doing this and I be banging on my chest and I'm banging the east and I'm banging in the west. fresh. Do you really wanna know what's next? Let's go. See the way we on it and we all up in the race. And you know we gotta go now try to keep up with the pace. And we struggling and hustling and sell it and get it